I do all my YouTube stuff.
Hi, Reach Out in Colorado community. We're so excited to have you. We're doing another Facebook Live session with Denise Vega.
I am so excited to be here. Thanks, Maureen.
Yeah, no problem. Denise is a children and teen-lit author. Is that correct?
That is correct.
She has written a number of books and just launched. We just had an awesome release party for the newest addition to the collection. If Your Monster Won't Go to Bed. So, Denise, would you tell our community, tell anybody watching a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Well, as Maureen said, I am a writer of books from toddler to teen, and I've been writing for a really long time, since I was a kid, and am very involved in the local writing community and have loved every minute of it. And my journey as a writer has been really quite long, and really the ups and downs of a usual journey. Really enjoyed it and have made tons of friends in the writing community, which has been a huge plus, because writing can be such a solitary experience.
Yeah.
And to have a community of writers in my critique group, and also when I go to events, I've made so many wonderful friends through the writing community.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Tell anybody out there a little bit about how you created that community for yourself. That had to be, was that a long process, or like I'm guessing that happened over a number of years or number of experiences?
Yes. That is a wonderful question. And it was over a number of years. When I first started writing, I didn't know that there was really anybody else out there. Obviously, you know that on one level, but I did end up going and attending a conference, and I remember the feeling very distinctly of walking in there and being convinced I was the only one there who had never published a book. I was the only one there that knew nothing about children's writing and publishing, and just started connecting to people. In fact, one of my first conferences I attended, I met 3 other writers, and we formed a critique group that we still have. Other members have come and gone, but our core group, it's been over 20 years.
That's awesome. Wow.
I know, it's amazing.
So cool. And you guys just communicate like via email, or like?
That group is both email and in person.
That's
and
so neat.
I belong to 2 other groups that are both in person as well.
Oh,
so,
that's awesome.
It's
What
really
a
wonderful.
cool way to have that kind of sense of unity or, community. I just think that's really neat. So tell us a little bit about If Your Monster Won't Go to Bed.
I'm happy to. So this book, I started it probably 2011, 2012, and for anyone out there who is interested in writing for children, it's a wonderful, wonderful experience, and I encourage you to do it. I will say it takes patience and building a thick skin, because it not only does it take a long time, but often you will hear from publishers who don't want your book, so you have to deal with that. But I have always loved monsters, and when I was a kid I was scared of them, and so that came out a little bit into this book, as well as loving picture books that are sort of speaking to the reader. So this is sort of a how-to manual, and I had such a blast writing it. It was really fun.
Awesome. So for anybody that's joined us, we've got a couple watchers right now. This is Denise Vega, children's book author, just released If Your Monster Won't Go to Bed. If you guys have questions or comments for Denise, please type them into the comments bar. We can see them. They're popping up on the screen, and Denise would be happy to answer them.
Absolutely.
So please make this an interactive session for us. So I'd love to hear with you talking a little bit about your love of monsters and being afraid of them, a little bit more about how the character of the monster in this book evolved for you.
That's a great question. I thinking back, so I was like, it's only been 5 years, but can I remember? I do remember really focusing on this whole narrator who was giving instructions to the character, which became the girl character. And what's really fun about writing picture books, if you're not an illustrator, is that this is all a surprise. What the illustrator does for your story is just phenomenal. And Zachariah O'Hora, who illustrated this book, is just a genius. And he did an incredible job. And I had never pictured the monster as so adorable and wonderful. And I love this monster. and I just want to take it home and cuddle it, which is great because you don't want to be too scared of a monster when you're reading a picture book.
Hi, Cassandra. Cassandra said that she loves the cover and that it makes her want to read the book to her kids.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Cassandra. And on that note, if you don't mind, I love that you said read it aloud to your kids, because that's what a picture book experience is all about, is reading aloud. It's an interactive experience. That's what these books are designed to do. And interestingly, my dad came to a story time I did at a bookstore recently, and he had read the book on his own before, and then he came to the event and listened to me read it to kids.
Yeah.
And he came up to me afterward and said, I really liked your book, but I love it now. The experience of reading aloud, where you're putting expression in and you're connecting with whoever you're reading with, and they're responding, so you respond. It's such a cool interactive experience. So yay, Cassandra.
And this is so amazing for anybody that watched our first Facebook Live session. Mariana Glusman, pediatrician and professor, terms that dialogic reading.
Oh, there's a term for it.
There's the science term
I
for you.
love that. Now I have a new term to use.
Dialogic reading, and that back and forth is
yeah.
and then the back and forth is serve and return interaction.
And return.
Yes.
Ooh, we learned something new
I know.
today. I love it.
Science and literacy.
That's fantastic.
So I would love to hear you talk. I'm interested in this a little bit more about maybe how you felt when you got the illustrations back.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I guess I would have just never imagined that was the process, that you weren't hands-on in that. So you craft this beautiful story, with a narrator, and it's kind of a manual, and then you turn it over to an illustrator and you just get the whole book back? Is that?
That can happen if you're doing self-publishing, but I got it traditionally published and so the publisher actually asked for my input but chose the illustrator.
Okay.
And then during that process, I received some sample illustrations. And I'll never forget sitting at my desk, opening an email from my editor at the publishing house, and busting out laughing at one of the illustrations that was sent that's in the book. It was
great.
Just awesome, hilarious, and so right on. And it's such a joy because you have the text, and often as a writer you have an idea of what the illustrations might look like. You almost have a movie running through your head, and you have to really release that, because the illustrator brings so much to the story. They really are the other part of the storytelling experience. Cool. And so to be able to see those illustrations and see his vision was just such a thrill.
Yeah, that is
awesome.
So neat, and such a surprise to have somebody else kind of take your story or your vision and transform it into just something different or something new.
Yes.
That's really neat and collaborative.
It is collaborative in the sense that we release our vision so that they can bring theirs to it. I don't actually work with the illustrator at all. It all goes through the editor. It's very rare that an illustrator and writer work or even speak to each other, though I have friends who that's happened, and I'm hoping I get to meet him one day. Because he's so masterful. But it's something unusual when I teach classes on writing for kids. That's one of the first questions that comes up is sort of, how do we find the illustrator? How do I tell them what I want? And I'm like, you don't? You really don't. And there are certain times when you can include sort of like an illustrator note, but we'll save that for another day.
Great.
When I'm teaching.
Right. When you're teaching your class.
Yes.
Very many, I'm sure. Many classes.
Yes, I do, and they're a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, which is a great note. I'd love to hear a little bit. For anybody who just joined us, this is Denise Vega. She's a children's and teen lit author, local to Denver.
Yes.
We are chatting with her a little bit about her experience with writing and publishing books. And I know that you host local workshops, is that correct? Or classes? I'd love to hear a little bit more about that and how our community could get involved if they wanted to.
Absolutely, yeah. I teach locally at the Lighthouse Writers Workshop. I've also taught through enrichment and extension programs at different colleges and universities around town. And if it's okay to mention, I'm actually doing a free workshop. It's a 2-hour workshop at a Barnes & Noble in Littleton, Bowles and Wadsworth, with 4 of my critique group members. And so we're going to be talking about children's books, how the writing process works, really all the way from board books up through teen lit. There's nonfiction gurus there. I mean, there's such a wide range of children's books. It's going to be really fun, and we're going to have a little time for writing too, so it's going to be really great. But I love that, being able to share what I know, and also I learn a lot when I share what I know and when I teach. So thanks for asking.
Yeah, no problem. And we'll update the post to have the information, share a link to that workshop if anybody is interested in attending this Saturday.
Yes, this Saturday afternoon, 1 to 3.
Great, that's awesome. So that's a great opportunity to interact with Denise and have some kind of coaching or get some advice on this journey, on your own personal journey, if you're interested in starting that.
Those writers out there, come on down.
Yeah,
have some fun with us.
Anybody who's just getting started too, right? I mean, maybe.
Yes, a lot of it will be. Well, we're assuming that people are coming to who are curious about how to write for kids. Maybe they have an idea. Maybe they've written a story, or they're enjoying their reading stories to their kids, and that sparked an idea. So, you know, the range. Or if you've been publishing for a while and just have questions, we hope everyone feels welcome to come.
That's great. I just think that's so awesome. So I would love to hear, Denise is also a Reach Out Ring Colorado board member.
Yes,
we're so lucky to have her. I'd love to hear a little bit about, you know, why you got involved with Reach Out Ring Colorado, what strikes you as important about the mission from an author perspective, an author of children's books or picture books also, which I think is a different connection than a lot of people may have with our organization.
Yes, thank you. I felt very honored that a former board member, Jean Reedy, reached out to me and asked me if I might be interested in joining the board. And talking to her and learning more about it, I just was so moved and excited about your vision and what you do with putting books into the hands of kids through their visits with the doctors. And just to know that literacy is so important developmentally, and that someone is trying to do something about that and reach these kids who may not have either access to books or the families to understand how this is an interactive and family situation, and that they as a family can really enjoy books, and not only that, but to recognize the importance of literacy and reading throughout our lives.
Right.
Reading and writing is so important. Being able to communicate in those two ways is incredibly important to do anything in life.
Right, it's true.
And so as a writer, I was just so thrilled to know that things that I do and my colleagues do, it can have an impact at such a powerful and important level.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And like I said, we're so lucky to have Denise on our board, and she's just bringing a whole different perspective to things, which is great. So I want to switch gears here a little bit, and I want to talk a little bit about the storytelling process here. So you said that that you started kind of developing the story out of your love of monsters, or maybe being afraid of monsters. And for anybody who just joined us, this is Denise Vega, and she is I'm going to ask her to tell us a little bit about maybe actually putting the words on the page. Like, is that difficult? Is it easy? Does it get harder down the road? Like, what are your experiences with the actual writing?
Wow, that's awesome. That is great. It's amazing how it varies from story to story.
Yeah.
This one came out fairly quickly, but the ending was a kicker for me. I just struggled with the ending so much. In fact, I struggled so much that I think I came up with like 5 different endings, and I was asking my agent, which one? And usually, it was weird. Usually I know my ending up front, and I really like it, and it's strong. And this one, I just kept waffling. It was crazy. But putting the words on the page and just getting them down is really that first step, and then going back and saying, okay, what's not working? And with a picture book, you have to think about page turnability and the shortness of the amount of words that are in there. So there's so much involved in writing a picture book that's very different than writing, say, one of my young adult novels. It was a completely different process I had to learn, and I'm still learning.
Right.
But it's so much fun, especially when you get it right.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it, you know?
Yeah, and do you find that, because I know you do a lot of activities in classes or at schools, and what are some of the best or great reactions that you've had from kiddos as you were reading? And anything that surprised you or that stands out as memorable?
Well, for younger works, like most recently reading this book to story times, there are definitely scenes or sections where I was going for humor and I was gratified when they laughed, or there's some gross parts, you know, and the kids would go, "Ew, gross!" And like, yes, I've done my job.
You really nailed it.
And so that is just the best, and that is often doesn't come if they're just reading it, you know, if someone's just reading it to themselves. It's just that experience of me or a parent or a guardian reading that, or a teacher reading it aloud, and the voice and all that. So I think that's also important.
Yeah.
But that's super fun. And then for my older books, I've gotten a lot of emails and years ago, handwritten letters just talking about how many letters of kids who said they didn't like to read until they read one of my books.
Oh.
And that was, yeah, I know. I was like, if that's all I do is affect one kid that way, yeah, I'm gonna start to cry. I'll have done my job. I mean, that was just beyond belief and so empowering and also so humbling.
Yeah.
And wow, you know, what better gift can you give to a reader than to create a reader, you know?
Yeah.
And I felt like that was, I saved those because those were really powerful for me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's
Meant
like
a
an
lot.
element of creating a safe space, or, you know, like maybe people talk all the time about how books transport you to new worlds or new places, and I feel like a lot of that comes into probably those feelings of not wanting to read and then, you know, loving a story because you wrote it, or, you know.
Absolutely. And I think the other piece too is kids need to be given an opportunity to find a book that works for them. And it's okay. There's so many great books out there. You know, Captain Underpants is hilarious. And it's not a literary masterpiece, but it's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's so accessible to kids. And he's been amazing at getting kids connected to story, as have many other books. So I think helping kids find the right book for them is really key. And I can see how Reach Out and Read Colorado actually helps kids start to do that at an early age. It seems like there's very much a chance and an opportunity for the physician to connect with the child. They get to know those kids. They're selecting books that they feel are right for that child. What a great opportunity to start that young, to be able to connect with books that they love, and then that springboards up as they get older, and they're going to be able to choose books that they like on their own. So I'm just so excited about that part of Reach Out and Read Colorado.
Yeah, that's awesome. Stepping stones in the journey of becoming a book lover.
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
I think
that's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know you talked a little bit about picture books and reading aloud. You know, is there a difference between sharing a book or reading a book out loud and just reading something on your own?
Absolutely, and we touched on that a little bit earlier, where the experience of a shared reading is so important. And it's not just about the voice, and you don't have to be this incredible reader to really have this really good positive experience with a listener. And I think part of it is tactile. You know, they're touching the book. They might be helping turn the pages. They're pointing things out. And they're connecting with things if you're doing sort of a one-on-one. And then when I read to groups, I'm holding the book out and I'm pointing to things and I'm asking them questions about what's happening. So I often don't read the story straight through because someone will laugh or someone will make a comment and I'll go, wow, let's connect with that. What's that? And how fun is that?
Yeah.
So I love that piece of it, and just being able to get kids thinking and experiencing a story in so many different ways. And that's what the read aloud really gives you, because as we talked about, it's a shared experience. A dialogic
A dialogic reading experience.
Try to remember that word.
Right. Yeah, it's neat too because we also Reach Out Ring Colorado talks a lot about the socio-emotional bonding part of that, which, sharing those emotions or connecting with a kiddo and listening to, the kiddo's thoughts or ideas and helping them work through some of that isn't just beneficial for their foundation for future learning success or reading success, but also to just create stronger bonds between the reader and the kiddo, or parent and child, or caregiver and child, grandma and grandpa, any loved one who's sharing books. Like, that experience alone creates stronger bonds.
I love that observation because that is so true, and I think so important for the bonding and their emotional growth as a human is all about that.
Yep.
And I've had kids who don't know me, who after they've had a reading experience, they just come up and hug me. And I know a lot of writers and authors experience that. But it's so special because something happened.
Right.
Something happened, and it may have been the reading experience, it may have been my giving them eye contact. I don't know what it was, but they felt a connection and they felt strong enough to come up and connect with me physically, which I just cherish. So I love
Never let go.
I know. It's just amazing.
That's great.
That's one of the joys of writing for kids.
Yeah.
You get to have those connections, and they're honest. They say and do often what they want, and I respect that, and I envy it sometimes because I think sometimes we lose that as we grow older.
Oh, I've just enjoyed so much hearing your perspective. My heart just feels so warm right now. It's so good. I would, if you're willing, love for you to read a couple of pages out of your book for us. Maybe a little bit of a teaser.
Sure.
Once again, everybody, this is Denise Vega. She's a children's book author local to Denver. Just released If Your Monster Won't Go to Bed, which is one of the many books in Denise's collection. She also writes teen novels. If you have questions, put them in the comments. She's happy to answer. And right now she's going to do a little sample reading for us. And tell us about
my hat. So, of course, we see my little pom-poms and the ears on the monster. So I just took those colors. I did not knit this hat. I am not that talented, though I have many talented friends who could have knit this hat. But I did do the pom-poms, and I'm very proud of them. So I just want to share that.
We're going to have to Facebook Live again, and I'm going to need a hat, too.
That's right. We're going to get you a hat. Okay, so we'll just read the first couple of pages just to give you a little taste of If Your Monster Won't Go to Bed, illustrated by Zachariah O'Hora, the genius. Time for bed. Who hates those words more than anything? That's right, your monster. But we all know what happens when a monster doesn't get enough sleep. Massive monster tantrums, refusing to join the sneak up and scare your sister game, and falling asleep in his slug mush.
The colors are so
Aren't
beautiful.
they? They're so vibrant. Let's review a bedtime routine guaranteed to help any monster drift off into peaceful nightmare land. Rested and ready to play toss the slime ball with the rest of the kids and monsters. We'll just do one more. Don't ask your parents to help you. They know a lot about putting kids to bed, but nothing about putting monsters to bed. It's not their fault. They're just not good at it. So then the book goes on to give you sort of the how-tos of putting your monster to bed.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thanks for letting me share.
There was a little, in that second page, there was like a little girl doing double dutch. And there were 2 rows, but the monster had 2 heads. Right here?
Yes. Isn't that great? The monster with 2 heads and the arms are being used. And this is how you can see the illustrator is so brilliant. He's adding so much to this story because of his own vision and imagination. And that's why I am just in awe and so full of gratitude for illustrators.
Yeah, but I think it complements the story, which is almost it's a empowerment story, right? Like, it gives the kids the empowering feeling that they might have a skill or a talent that the parent doesn't, and that parents need help too. It's really cool. You know, your parents are good at putting monsters to bed, but you can figure it out because you know monsters.
That's right.
I think that's like such a great confidence confidence boost.
Yes, thank you for noticing that.
Yeah, you're
That was
welcome.
part of it.
That's great.
Yeah.
So Cassandra, we see that you want to chat with Denise offline, and we will definitely connect the two of you. That is awesome.
That would be great. I'd love that.
I think we always in these sessions with asking our guests what their favorite children's book is. So whether it is If Your Monster Won't Go to Bed, or if you have another maybe favorite or classic that's inspired you.
Well, recently, and I think this is the one I have on your website, it's another book that Zachariah illustrated called Wolfie the Bunny by Amy Dyson, and it is awesome. The story, she's a genius again, another genius out there the story is delightful, it's moving, it's funny, she does so much in so little, and his illustrations are awesome. So that's currently one of my favorite picture books on my shelf.
All right, so we got links going up for Denise's Writers Workshop. We'll also put a link to the book if anybody is interested. Thank you all for joining us. If you have comments, you can still ask them. If you want to connect, feel free to either send us a direct message to the page, and we'll put people in contact with Denise. We want to thank you again for joining us. Anything else?
That's it. I'm just so delighted to have been here. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Love Reach Out and Read Colorado. Support Reach Out and Read Colorado and all those kiddos who deserve books in their lives. Thanks so much.
Great. Thanks. Bye, everyone.